Role-playing games are generally my favorite genre of video game. They typically provide the best value for your money, have compelling stories and characters, and the best ones almost always include amazing soundtracks. There are a lot of RPGs coming out later this year, but there are a handful that I am particularly excited about playing. In this video, we will discuss the top RPGs I'm excited about playing in the second half of 2019, with a few honorable mentions at the end. To begin, and we are going chronologically based on announced release dates, we will start with Fire Emblem Three Houses for the Nintendo Switch, which releases on July 26th. Not that long ago, the Fire Emblem series was on its deathbed, but with the success of Fire Emblem Awakening on the Nintendo 3DS, the series was not only revived but also rejuvenated. Fire Emblem Three Houses represents the first console Fire Emblem game since Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn for the Nintendo Wii, all the way back in early 2007. After looking somewhat rough early on, the Nintendo Treehouse presentation of the game has me sold on it. I have been a fan of Fire Emblem games since Path of Radiance back in the GameCube days, but Nintendo has been experimenting a bit with the franchise as of late, and the whole school system that was announced earlier this year had me somewhat concerned. Now, after seeing more, I think that this will be a great game. It looks deep, and being able to play it on the go as well as on my TV has me excited to play it. There's a level of strategy involved in a Fire Emblem game that most RPGs just don't have. Battles can take a long time, and with permadeath, I've spent hours agonizing over decisions. That adds tremendously to the sense of dread you can have, but also to the feeling of accomplishment when you vanquish a foe and don't lose any of your favorite characters in the process. The game was originally supposed to launch early this year, but Nintendo added another 5 or so months of development time, and you can tell that it has really paid off. Say what you want about Nintendo, but they will continually delay a game that they do not feel is in its best state. The most recent example of this is Animal Crossing, which has been pushed back to March of 2020. I think more developers should follow this path, because all too often we spend the first several months of a new release's life waiting for patches to fix the game or include content that should have been in the initial release. The next RPG I'm excited to try out is the recently announced Anunnaki by Square Enix and Tokyo RPG Factory. After I Am Setsuna and the underwhelming Lost Sphere, Anunnaki appears to be Tokyo RPG Factory finally hitting their stride. I can already sense that this game has a lot more ambition than the other two games combined. Featuring an interesting two-world game mechanic, the central premise of the game, to send lost souls on to the beyond as a watcher, seems interesting. The graphics look far more inspired than either of Tokyo RPG Factory's other offerings, and I particularly like the painterly look of the beyond. Whether this turns out to be a great game is yet to be determined, but I am far more interested in it than I have been for their previous games by far. Anunnaki releases on August 22nd. The next game is actually an expansion to Monster Hunter World called Iceborn. It releases on September 6th, and it adds an entirely new part of the world to explore, called Hoarfrost Reach. It includes an additional difficulty level called Master Rank, along with new quest tiers, and of course, new monsters to hunt, along with a new storyline to follow. Monster Hunter has long been one of those games that you either love it or hate it, but with Monster Hunter World, I really think that the series has hit the mainstream. I played a few of the previous 3DS Monster Hunter games, and always enjoyed them for what they were. Monster Hunter World added great graphics, but also simplified a lot of the things that were tedious in the 3DS games. Quality of life improvements make a big difference in games like this, so they were welcome additions. This expansion is available for $39.99, with a beta on PlayStation 4 available for a limited time. The Steam version of Iceborn is set to release this winter. One of the bigger games I am looking forward to this year is the remake of The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. It releases on September 20th, over 26 years after the original came out on the Nintendo Game Boy. Nintendo has greatly updated the visuals and added user interface and control improvements, but this is definitely a very faithful recreation of the original game. Personally, I love the original Link's Awakening. It is the second Zelda game I completed after A Link to the Past, and since I beat it so many years ago at about age 10, I haven't played it since. I broadly remember the story and of course the ending, but it will be great exploring Koholint Island all over again, and reliving the dungeons, quests, and amazing music that the game had to offer. At first I wasn't crazy about the new graphic style, but it has indeed grown on me, and I feel that it fits the game well after seeing a lot more of it at E3 this year. There are so many gamers out there who have never played this game, and with the announcement of a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, we likely have to go back to older Zelda games for proper dungeons and special items. So for those players who haven't played it, or have just come into the series through Breath of the Wild, this is a fantastic game and well worth your time. Next, we have Dragon Quest XI's, Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, which is releasing on September 27th. I was very interested in Dragon Quest XI when it released last year, but as one of the very first games announced for the Switch, I decided to wait for that version. It has been a long wait, but it seems to be more than worth it. Square Enix appears to have developed a version of the game that seems tailored to the Switch hardware. It looks extremely good compared to its PlayStation 4 counterpart, but they didn't stop there. There is an additional 2D mode that you can switch to on the fly. This was included in the 3DS version of the game, which released only in Japan, so it is an intriguing addition and an entirely different way to play the game. Sometimes you just want that retro aesthetic, and the fact that Square Enix basically built a retro version of Dragon Quest XI really is amazing. Another addition to the definitive edition of the game is orchestrated music. Though I didn't play it on PlayStation 4, the music was evidently a sore spot in the game, and that appears to be rectified in this Switch release. There are also newly included character-specific stories and the ability to change between the English and Japanese voiceovers. All in all, it really does appear to be the definitive edition of the game, and I am extremely excited to play it. The long wait for the Switch version of this game appears to be well worth it. Playing huge RPGs like this on the go, or at least having the ability to, at least for me, means I can actually complete them. Next, and probably my most anticipated game of this year, is The Outer Worlds, which is releasing on October 25th. Everything shown about the game checks all of the boxes for me. A relatively open world, dynamic characters, first-person perspective, science fiction, dialogue trees, true choices and consequences, perk trees, quests, and an overall interesting premise. A universe where capitalism has been taken to the extreme is definitely ripe for the tongue-in-cheek humor that Obsidian is known for. It does remain to be seen how much fun the combat is, but you can evidently complete the game as a pacifist and theoretically not kill anyone, so that will be interesting to try. I love games like this where you can truly roleplay a character. The idea of, quote, dumb text options if you want to play as an idiot character is also a nice touch. I can definitely see myself playing this game for several years and multiple playthroughs if it is as open-ended as it claims to be. Obsidian has consistently made very good games, so there's no reason to think that The Outer Worlds will be any different. It should scratch the Fallout itch that everyone has since Fallout 76 hasn't been able to do that. Next, and we don't know when it is going to be released, but Final Fantasy VIII is getting a remastered edition later this year. Unlike Final Fantasy VII, 9, and 10, I never actually played Final Fantasy VIII. For whatever reason, I just didn't play it when it came out. I think I had saved up all my money for a Dreamcast, as this was in late 1999, and bought that along with Soul Calibur, Sonic Adventure, and NFL 2K. I guess there just wasn't any money left for Final Fantasy VIII. But now, 20 years later, I will get a chance to finally play it. This isn't a full remake like Final Fantasy VII is getting next year, but it is definitely getting a much nicer treatment than the current Final Fantasy VII or 9 received so far. It looks like a lot of the game is being redone, and depending on when it actually releases, I could see myself playing it a lot. I'll definitely be picking this up on the Switch as it has been great playing through Final Fantasy VII at my leisure, so this will be a nice addition to the collection. Now, there are two other games that are honorable mentions for different reasons. The first is The Witcher 3, which is coming to the Switch. I played this game for probably 6 straight months back when it released in 2015. Every time I thought I was about to be done with it, CD Projekt Red would release some new DLC or expansion, and then I'd be right back in the world of The Witcher. It was truly an amazing game, but, and I can't believe that I'm saying this, that was over 4 years ago now. I'm excited to be able to replay this game again, and this time at my leisure. I already enjoyed most of what it had to offer at a much higher fidelity, but from what I've seen so far, the Switch version is looking more than decent. Sure, it isn't going to blow you away, but the mere fact a game like this, as amazing as it is with a huge open world, incredible quests, characters, and dialogue, is going to be playable anywhere, well, I just can't wait to jump back in. Unfortunately, we don't know when it is releasing. If I had to bet, I would say early to mid-November, though, which is fine, as it will give me about 3 weeks to play The Outer Worlds exclusively. By that time, I'll be ready to jump into something different to just change things up. Always having The Witcher 3 on my Switch to complete quests or do some hunting will be fantastic. Finally, we will be getting the Wastelanders update later this year for Fallout 76. Now, there's nothing that is going to make Fallout 76 exactly like a regular single-player Fallout game, but this new update is likely going to get us as close as possible. We've seen the addition of human NPCs, factions in the game world, at least a few companions, and speech checks. This may make Fallout 76 enough of a Fallout game now for many people to give it another look, myself included. Since I own the game and it is a free update, I really have nothing to lose by trying it out. I'll go in with low expectations, but I love the Fallout universe so much that I at least owe it to myself to try the Wastelanders update when it releases this fall. We don't have an exact date yet, but I expect that if it is as big as Bethesda wants to believe it is, it may end up coming later on, like in late October or November. Either way, I'll jump in and check it out. I enjoyed exploring the world of Fallout 76. I just found the quests bland, as in go here and collect X number of these things all over the map and return to a robot or terminal. Adding human NPCs will potentially make a huge difference, but as I said, I will pass judgment on my own after I've played it. So for now, that about covers the major RPGs I'm looking forward to for the rest of 2019. Some games I was hoping to play slipped into 2020, such as Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Wasteland 3. Still, there's plenty to play this year and on a variety of platforms. The Outer Worlds is my most anticipated game, but I'll be getting all of the games I discussed in this video. So what is your most anticipated RPG of 2019? Let's discuss in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, maybe click that bell icon, and as always, thank you so much for watching.